Welcome back everybody. In this video we're going to be covering DateTime parsing. DateTime parsing is one of those things where it looks like you could use regex over there, but there are better tools available and you pretty much have all these various different date formats and you want to take all of them and push them into this single centralized format that can be recognized across all languages, all applications, etc. That's the aim here. Remember that DateTime can be not only something like 1st of June 2020, it can also be 5 minutes ago, moments ago, and these are various human readable DateTime formats. We want to parse them to the machine readable format. That is what we're going to be taking a look at today. Let's open up our favorite fighter, and the date information is right over here. That's what we are going to be going after. Let's open this up. We're going to inspect and we have info box data here, and this is off key born. Now most of the time this section looks pretty crazy with a bunch of different information, so let's first see what we get when we extract this information. We'll come back, wiki fighters, go all the way to the bottom where we do the weight matching. Let's copy this, paste this over here, remove the elif and start with born. We'll remove the rest of the stuff that's in here. We'll use print and print the value. We'll open up the terminal and the command, I've saved it in the readme here. Let's paste it in. And it looks like we're not exactly collecting the whole thing that is in here. We are rather collecting only the first bit of text. Remember that the way that we're doing this is the value is being parsed over here from the TD element. Let's, for this specific example, copy this, and instead of printing the value, we will omit getting the text. We'll remove this and see what we get from this. We'll run this again and we're gonna get a bunch of results, which is pretty good. We are, however, after only these specific sections. This is where regex can be quite helpful. Otherwise, I'm not actually sure if a regular expression would help us that much here. So what we're gonna do is copy all of that output that we got, paste it into regex 101, and if you want, you can delete maybe like half of it so you can focus on this specific thing over here. But this is what I'm gonna do, and this is generally what I do when I'm working with these. Here is the information that I'm after. Does it look in any unique way? Well, yes, it looks like a date, and perhaps it can have some variations, but it has another unique property where its location. Look what it's sitting next to, like an opening span and a closing span. All right, let's take this, copy it, paste it over here, and replace this with a backslash. And we will see something like this. Now, for all the contents in between here and here, let's say, look, we're just looking for anything. So a group dot plus. The group in terms of matching isn't really needed here. However, I'm just being a little bit, looking into the future where I know, look, in this group, I'm gonna aim to capture a date, okay? We're a little bit overmatching where we're capturing the date including this closing span, and because there's also a closing span over here, and that is the result of the dot. The dot is any character. A closing angle bracket, an opening angle bracket, and a slash helps it match this span. So what I'm gonna say is, right, dot is a little bit too generic. Let's be a little bit more specific. What are we seeing over here? I can see characters and I can see numbers. Okay. For this, I can use \W. If I hover over it, matches any word character equivalent to A to Z big letters, 0 to 9, and underscore. So that will cover us for letters and numbers. Then we have spaces, and we place a space, and looks like we are already starting to match something. The last thing that is left is a comma. So we're looking for a comma. And there it is. If we encounter some kind of formats that we don't recognize, well, we go ahead and add it to this regex expression. So this is what I would be looking for. Let's take this regex expression, come back to the code here. I will again put it in quotes and just make sure that I'm prepending it with P. Let's grab this, and I will say that this is a born section. I'll remove the print. I will then use RE search. So RE search, take my expression, place it as the first parameter, and then born section as the second parameter. This should get me a match. If match is none, that means we're not matching, so we can just go ahead and continue. Otherwise, if we do have a match, let's extract the date. We're not going to be attaching it to the fighter info just yet because we're not parsing it into the computer format that I was talking about at the beginning. But let's go ahead and just print it out, and I don't actually need the quotes. I'll say match group, and I want to get my date group that I have specified. Let's rerun the application, and look at those nice little neat dates. Isn't that perfect? So we have these, they're in different formats. Sometimes we have November over here, sometimes we have July over here, sometimes there is a comma, sometimes there is no comma. You know, these may look different. Defining a regex for this could be a little bit troublesome. And then taking it even further, you can have many different websites that you're building scrapers for. You want a unified way of parsing date time. This is where, again, sounds like a little bit too much work. Let's see if somebody has already done this work, okay? Generally, this is the case. Let's look for Python, DateTime parsing. The first search result over here is the date time. It does provide some parsing. If I scroll in a little bit, there is a string p time, so string parse time format, where you can use characters like %a, and like %b, %big B to specify things like month, day, their position, etc. And this will get you to some places, but it's not going to cover as much ground as like a pre-built library. And by the way, DateTime is part of Python, okay? It's part of the standard library. So in theory, you could use something like this, although here you're doing pattern matching. You don't get the expressive power of regex. So regex is like any string, any pattern that you want to define. Here what you're doing is you're basically saying this is where the year is, this is where the month is, this is where the day is, and this is what formats I expect these values to be in. And we can actually take a look at this example. So here we have string p time, and then date time string, and the format. For this, we're just going to open up Python, just like that. We're going to import date time, and this will import the module. This function specifically is going to sit on date time. So there it is. Date time is a type in the date time module. So this is going to be a little bit weird when we're going to be typing it out, but nevertheless. So we're after this strp time. Let's say date time, strp, and was it time? We then have the first parameter and the second parameter. So the first parameter is the date string. Let's grab one over here. We're going to paste it in here. And then the second one is the format. So let's build up this format. First, we have the November. Let's find it. Here we can see January, February, etc. %big B. %big B. Then we have a space, and then we have the date. Let's come back here, and if we want the numbers, we want %d. Let's say %d, and then we have a comma for some of them. Sometimes it's optional. Let's say comma, space, and then we have the year. We come back, we find the year. Here's the year representation, %big Y. So %big Y, and enter. What we see here is essentially a date that is now parsed into the special date object, where when we are going to further serialize it to a string, we are going to be able to transfer it between programs, or basically save it to a file, load it back in, and work with it. When you have this DateTime object, you can do things like add days to it, subtract days to it. You can basically control and calculate dates. You can take one date, another date, subtract, add them together. Hopefully you get the picture. When you're working with dates, DateTime is the thing that you need. This is a single way of parsing it. Here is the format that we would have to type up. Let's see if it works for some other values over here. We will take this June over here because it has a number without the 0. Come back around here, remove this, paste, enter. Looks like that's working without any problems. If we are then going to try to take this format, remove, paste, enter, and we have an exception. So what would your solution look like here? First you would have try this format, catch exception. If it fails, try this other format, and you would essentially have a loop over formats. If you're not crashing, that means you have successfully parsed. Go ahead and return it. The trouble you're gonna run into is if you have year, month, and then day. If you have, something like year 2000 and 6th of April or something like that, so it's 06 or 6, I don't know, June, 6th of June, right? So you have 0606. Is it 6th of the month? Is it the USA date format, or what is it, right? So sometimes you need to adapt them to the correct websites. But, so this is the problem that we run into. So we need a tool that is a little bit more powerful. We don't want to be doing any format specifying. We don't want to use our brain too much, right? Somebody has already solved this problem. If you scroll around the internet, look on Stack Overflow, a couple of videos, you scroll a little bit further down, eventually you should stumble upon a library that's called Dateparser. Dateparser is this amazing library that will parse things like 1 minute ago, tomorrow, things like this. It still has a little bit of features that it needs to cover, but it doesn't cover everything, but it covers most of it, okay? So let's take a look at installing it. Hopefully you're already a professional at doing this. We've installed a couple of packages, but we'll go to the installation, okay? Pip command. Hopefully I'll zoom in just so everybody can see it. We'll just take DateTime parser. We'll exit Python, drop this down, go to requirements, put this on the end. I'm gonna bring this back up, and I'm gonna pip install -r requirements. I'm just installing the requirement over here. I don't really care about reinstalling the whole package. It's just gonna grab the latest DateTime parser and stick it in my virtual environment. Okay, there we have it. Now we can actually take a look at using it. We'll type in Python, and then we're gonna import Dateparser. There we have it. Let's come back to introduction to Dateparser. What do we have for our examples? Import Dateparser, okay, and then DateTime parse, and just whack in the date, and looks like it should just do it. Cool. Let's see it work with a couple of date formats that we had. So I would have to scroll up a little bit. We'll grab the first one, scroll down, replace this DateTime format with this, and look at that. So we're getting the exact same object that we would get last time. However, now we don't have to try too hard. We don't need to be specifying any of our DateTime formats, no regex, no shuffling about. It's free money, right? So really amazing stuff. Now we just go and grab another date format, take it, come down here, erase all of this, enter, and there we have it, right? So we can have something like 2 seconds ago. Look at that, it even gets you the time. The stuff that I've seen it not cover is, I think, places like Facebook or something like that. You would have like moments ago, and this is where it would take a little bit of time, but in the end you get none. All right, so this is where if this returns none, you need to put an if statement, and anything that it doesn't cover, be it regex and stuff like that, you need to cover it yourself. Other things that you can encounter is, for example, like 1 minute ago and 1 month ago or something like that. These things can definitely happen. Let's drop down the terminal. We will open up the wiki finders. We are gonna scroll to the top, and we will, from Dateparser, I think that's what we import. So import Dateparser, and then from the namespace we grab this function. How about we can import parse, and we're gonna have a function in this file called parse. The reason we don't want parse, and for example, the reason you wouldn't want get, is what are you getting? Once you're down here and you're looking at a get function, it's like, get what, right? If it's request.get, you understand it's an HTTP request. If you have a dateparser.get, you understand what kind of parse it is. If you just have a parse, if you just have a get, you don't understand, you're being kind of implicit, you want to be explicit, and the only way to find out is you see get, or let's say we're looking at this get, and it's like, which get is it? You have to scroll up to the top of the file and take a look at it here. For this reason, we're just going to import a dateparser, grab it all the way to the bottom. Here where we would have our date, let's dateparser, parse, take the date, place it into the function, just as we did in the Python console, and then we're going to attach it to the fighter information. So this was birth, fighter info, that over here, indent, square braces, birth, equals, and then we grab the information, and voila. Okay, so, not much else to do. Let's delete the output, let's exit the Python terminal, and let's rerun the collection. Now we are getting an error of object of DateTime is not JSON serializable. That is very understandable. I will scroll to the top and I will just copy, let's say, this line over here, and I just want to show you what is possible with the DateTime object. Let's then scroll all the way back down. We'll go back into Python, import DateTime. We'll then store this date in a variable. If we print out A, we get a date, which is a object. It's not a string, it's not a number, it is an object, all right, of a specific type. If we take a look at the type of A, so when you are serializing things to JSON, you're putting it into a string format. And here you basically want to do the conversion yourself. So if we have something like a number, we can use string to cast the number to a string. And likewise, if we have some kind of string that represents a number, but it's a string because it's in quotation marks, we can use int to cast it like that. Similar to a bool, right? So this is called casting. If you have something that says true or something that says false, and I'm actually being silly here, this would return false only. All right, so if the string is not empty, it's true. If the string is empty, casting it to a boolean would return false. So all we're doing here is just casting. What if we try to cast our DateTime object to a string? What will we get? Well, we get a string that looks something like this. We have our date and we have our time, and this is always going to be in the same format. If we parse it from one format into the other, if we figure out what a moment ago time span is and we parse it to a DateTime, we can always turn it into this and then reread it back into our Python application. So what we're after is casting our DateTime to a string. Let's come back here. Oh, and by the way, maybe it's worth taking a look before we do this. What would happen if our DateTime is none and we try to cast it to a string? What would happen? Well, you'd get a string and none. So do you want a DateTime that says none? Perhaps you want to put an if statement there, perhaps not. How sure are you if you're going to get a none at all? You know. These sort of things are just to ponder. Let's take our DateTime over here. We're going to go ahead, convert it to string. And this is Dateparser. I accidentally removed the D from there. There we have it. Let's exit Python terminal, rerun the application. That's now finished. Let's drop down the terminal, format our output, and let's drop to the top. And yep, here we have the birth of Justin Gaethje, Dustin Poirier, Conor McGregor, and notice that they're all in the same format. If they had different formats before, they all get converted to the same one. And again, just to reiterate, if you'd have like 10 seconds ago, 10 minutes ago, a month ago, it would get parsed to the same format. And this will be it for this video. Thank you very much for watching. If you did enjoy it, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe. If you have any questions or want to say thank you, leave it in the comment section, or better yet, come support me on Patreon, get the source code. Big thank you to all of my current Patreon supporters. Your help is very much appreciated. Hope you're having a good day, and see you in the next episode.